Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of Midweek Matters. I'm James Gray and I'm joined today by Charlie White.
Great to see you, Jimmy. It always is, but especially today.
Why especially today?
There's a twinkle in your eye. The sun is not in the sky.
It's sure
But there's great big news to talk about.
Surprisingly, there is. I thought with the Origin announcements, obviously there's a number of star players missing this weekend. The bye schedules have been dominating the headlines around the fairness of the draw, which I don't know if we're ever going to get to a fair draw, Charlie, but there has been some big breaking news and it's Tigers again. But before we get into that, how's everything going with you?
Mate, it's been, I've had a mixed week. I've got to be honest, I've had a mixed week. I think I might have a bit of seasonal depression. All the rains get me down.
We're hit almost the halfway point of the season as well, which is...
Maybe I've got a little bit of rugby league. The season's got the best of me. Also, the weekend I just had a 30th, had another thing on the Friday. Then we went to Brisbane together on the Sunday, and then we went for dinner after Brisbane when we got back to Sydney. So I just was a bit tired coming into Monday. Got up early on Monday. Big Denver Nuggets fan. They got pumped in Game 7. So I watched that.
You got up at 5:30 on Monday morning
after a late night. So, but I'm coming good. Seeing your faces made me feel better.
Mate, you know what? Just thinking back to that game on Sunday, like it was quite draining. Like I know a lot of people would say, well, you're at the foot, you're commentating, like just get on with it. Like it's a great job. And it is a great job. But games like that like to and fro, and you're watching the screen, you're watching it live, it's an emotional roller coaster. The lead changes hands, changed hands a lot. It was so exciting, but
it was a great game.
You almost feel like you crash after it, don't you?
You do when you get off air because you're so focused in. You got to be locked as a commentator and like producer to a lesser degree, but mainly as a commentator. But you have to really be focused. Like you guys have to focus on what's happening, like with an intense level of focus and detail, which would be overlooked, I think, by most punters at times. Some
games more than others. There are some games that you can just
drift.
You can drift and you can get lost, and it's okay to, especially on radio, it's okay to get a little bit lost and a bit sidetracked. But that game was just on. Those last couple of sets from the Broncos where Gutho tackled Payne Haas, referee calls a knock on, but then they review. They get the ball back, and then that last set, it was just like...
Like it just felt like the Broncos were going to win as well.
It did feel like the Broncos were going to win.
I still have no idea how Clint Gutherson made that tackle on Payne Haas as well.
It was insane.
25, now it makes sense he was injured. Like maybe a fit Payne Haas gets through.
You know what? I've been speaking to a few mates about that game. They're like, what was it like? And talking about Brisbane. And obviously at the end of the game, the younger generation of Broncos supporters are all down onto the field trying to get selfies with the players, and they throw the balls into the crowd after every home game. But there seemed to be the atmosphere changed. And even we spoke to a number of punters outside the ground. They were really disappointed. It's a big week for Madge.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's massive. It's massive. Did you I noticed this at full time, like I could be completely off the mark here, but Ben Hunt, he at that full time when, it was such a poor loss for them and they're about to go into Origin camp, he sort of wasn't there with the group for the Broncos players. All the other players were together and he was off talking to the Dragons guys.
Look, I did notice it. Obviously he's a former player at that club. A former captain of that club, but was leveraging to get out for a long, long time. And obviously you still make a lot of friends there. But I did find it surprising that he chose to go and hang with the old teammates. Now, look, I've been in that position before, and I've been in a position before where I was at the Dragons. We got pumped by the Dogs. And I wanted to shake people, but I was not like hanging around. Like we were going to play finals that year, and it was about getting back in for the Dragons and us being right. I think when obviously it was pointed out to us, and you can see the Broncos players are devastated by the loss, and Reece, Walsh, and I think a couple of the other injured or non-players were out there with them, and it was noticeable. And I think, look, you can be respectful. You go over to them, or you go over after the game, but the immediate concern should be like getting around the players that are suffering, that you're now with, that you chose to be with. So. Yeah. It was a bit of a surprise, yeah.
And this is a small thing, but even when he was pictured on screen after the Ezra Man forward pass and him talking about how forward that was, like, is that play on?
I think that's fine. I think
just normal chat you'd have on the sideline.
I think that's normal chat.
Yeah, cool.
Well, he was right.
He was right. It was a mile forward.
You'd look at that with a few of your mates and go, geez, that was forward.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Ben, he got caught on camera. Yeah. Mimicking, mouthing those words. So
I did get actually bagged so much when Madge first got the job, and I said I thought it was a strange decision because he hasn't performed very well in all his regular seasons since that premiership. Basically, even the year after the Souths won the premiership, like snuck into the 8. So maybe I was right, but anyway,
it was very interesting to sit with Cheese on Monday just gone, and hear his thoughts on Madge. Like very strong and a real lesson from Brandon Smith there about you've just got to buy into his methods, and then results, performance, happiness will come.
I know we hadn't planned to talk about the Broncos, but just on Madge, are you at all worried though that like he's kind of a coach where you should have like a spike when he first comes in because of his intensity, and it would drive that fear in the players to perform. And then over time, that wears thin with players. Is what you've seen over the years with the clubs he's been at. It wears thin with players, and then it goes terribly.
That is that usual pattern with people like Maguire. Instant spike, instant change around. Everyone buys in. Everyone's like loving working hard together. Like, oh, we kind of needed this, and it drives results. Maybe year one, really look to peak in year two as you fine tune a few things with what the players that you've got. And then it usually, crashes. Yeah. That would be the expected pattern. The fact that he's not got that instant sugar hit is a bit of a concern. But obviously we saw that against the Roosters in round one. We've seen it against the Bulldogs. So it's been there for the Broncos to dominate games, but just not consistent enough. And there was some things from last weekend's game that are huge issues in my opinion.
For anyone that hasn't seen it, there's been a little incident last couple of days, Reece Walsh punching his mate with a boxing glove on that his mate's obviously filmed and put on TikTok. I don't think it's the crime of the century, personally.
I don't think it's worth any mention of other than if you want to watch it on TikTok, watch it on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the lightest punch. Like, it's just a friendly little jab.
For that to go into, like, the mainstream media, I think is a bit of a, I don't know. I just really don't think it's newsworthy at all.
No, it's like, it just goes to show how Brisbane, the fishbowl of it, and how everything the Broncos players do is so magnified. Because like, it's literally him, which I'm sure most people have done, messing around with like boxing gloves and a friend puts his head up. Maybe he lost a bet or something. I don't know the full story. It's a really light jab from Reece Walsh. The player, like his friend falls over sort of dramatically, but then gets straight back up.
Yeah, it's just a couple of mates mucking around. Happens to be on film.
And then he even got door stopped by like one of the news outlets, and he had to answer questions on it. Yeah. Walking out, and he had to answer questions. He apologized straight away as well.
Oh mate, well that's his biggest mistake. Is him apologising. Like, as soon as you start to apologise for that, you have to apologise for everything.
Yeah.
Like, just, I understand they're in a tough predicament at the moment where, they don't want more news, but just no comments. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm not answering that stupid question.
Well, enough on the Broncos because, surprise, surprise, Jimmy, the Tigers, they're back in the headlines.
They are.
For this reason, Lachlan Galvin is likely going to be gone as early as the end of this week, potentially. So basically what's happened is the Tigers got together in a board meeting on Monday and agreed to let Lachlan Galvin go for a transfer fee. So there's been a bit of back and forth about that transfer fee. Originally, the Tigers wanted $1 million. Then basically they've gone to market and realised that no club's going to pay $1 million. gone down to $500,000. It's probably going to end up around that $250,000, $300,000 transfer fee. It will mean that he goes to a new club this season. And I mean, this is massive, Jimmy, but the Dogs are maybe now the front runners ahead of the Eels.
Well, firstly, I'd love to have been inside that boardroom meeting and found out what the rationale is for letting him go now. It's probably an educated guess to say it's to do with these bullying allegations.
It is.
And those being dropped as a part of allowing this early release.
Yeah.
I think most people in the game felt Lachlan Galvin would see out the year with the Tigers and likely get this early release next season. The fact that it's being fast forward, it is a bit strange because like you go back and you look at the timeline of events and how this all unfolded. Played reserve grade, they lost to the Eels, and then he's catapulted back into the team. I thought he'd played his last game for the Tigers then. But before coming back in, he gets back in the team. They had that win against Cronulla and Golden Point, and everyone playing happy families, or at least putting on a show. And then I just don't know what to make of this. I think in that boardroom meeting as well, there may have been some questions and demand for serious answers about how this has been handled. And I know Shane Richardson came on the show and justified the interactions with Lockie, the public statement that was made. But I genuinely think if they had their time again, they would have done things differently.
Definitely. Of course they would have. I think also the social media posts have hurt them massively because it gave the bullying claims and that legal case a couple of really public bits of evidence as well.
Yes.
Which has screwed them. Like Sunil Taruv, obviously he's been criticised enough for what he did, and we move on from that now.
You know what? Like in looking at those posts, right? Jerome Luai puts out a team first post. Now it's if he put that out in the preseason.
No, but context is everything.
Yeah, well, timing is everything.
Yeah.
And then, like, Taruva's post allegedly was to a private group.
No, see, it's annoyed me this thing about private. It's not a private group. You've got your close friends on Instagram, which you go and handpick and people post. Everyone's been calling it a private thing. It's not. It's a public Instagram story, but it's to his close friends, so he can handpick the people that post him. So it's still something he's shared to. It could be 200 people on his close friends list.
Right.
You know, I don't know how many he's got on there. I don't know how many close friends he has. But it could be 50 people. Still, it's still a stupid thing to do.
Yeah. It was stupid, but like, is it bullying?
I think it is bullying.
Is it?
And I think it gives it credibility.
Is it bullying because of the public conversation towards Lachlan Galvin, or is it bullying because you're saying he's leaving for money? Like but it's like, is it actually is it if something's true? Is it bullying?
Yeah,
or can it be seen as bad? The fact that he wasn't is it maybe the fact that he wasn't included in the post that makes it's like behind the back?
Yes,
yeah.
It almost, if he posted it not in his close friends to his actual story, it's a bit better because it's like more banter. But the reality is, how Lachlan Galvin reacts to it depends on whether it's bullying or banter. Because if Lachlan Galvin takes it personally and goes and complains that it's bullying, well, then it is considered bullying because it's all about how the person sees it. Because you could say abhorrent things to me and I'd just say it was banter, like you and me bantering. But like if you go the same way you talk to maybe me, you talk to someone else, they might take it completely differently.
Yeah, well, relationships play a big factor in that, don't they?
Yeah.
And look,
Galvin was on the out a little bit in terms of the core group.
Yeah, maybe that feeling isolated. Look, I imagine there's lawyers out there that would say that is bullying. They can make a very strong case in the court of law. And there'd be lawyers out there that would likely go, look, this is nonsense and I'll defend this. I think back to like my times in teams, and there could be allegations of bullying every day, but then it's It's banter, you know. Well,
mate, whichever way, they think they've got enough, and the Tigers are worried, genuinely worried about the legal case, because the reason they're doing this is because they want to get this legal case gone.
Well, that's it. I think there's a genuine fear that this goes to court. That is the last thing that the Tigers want. The last thing for this to go to the court of law. So they maybe now have been forced into a corner where they've got to play that negotiation tactic of, you drop these charges and the case against us, we'll grant you this early release. So it does look as if the early release is going to happen before June 30. So, well, the clubs that are in for him, the Dogs, Parramatta, the favourites, I think you're a fool to write off the Roosters, despite the relationship breakdown between Isaac Moses and the Roosters hierarchy, Nick Politis specifically.
But what about the fact that DCE's going there? I reckon Roosters, yes, they're always going to probably have a look and have a question, but with Sam Walker and DCE, I reckon that kills that opportunity at the Roosters.
Yes, but if you read into it, DCE hasn't signed yet and the goalposts have moved. So if you look at it, if you're the Sydney Roosters, right, and you've got DCE who wants 2 years, which again at 37 is a massive stretch, despite his durability, despite his ability to still play top level football. He is, look, the end of an athlete's career is when you're coming to the end of your life as a professional athlete. It is beyond crazy how quickly it catches up with you. The decline is incredible. It is like you fall off a cliff. Now, that was my experience. I know it's a common experience. Does it mean it's the norm? I would say yes, but there are extremes. But going back to the Roosters, you got DCE for a sugar hit of 1-2 years, partnered with Sam Walker, which may or may not work and may or may not disgruntle Sam. Or you've got this wonder kid that could partner with Sam Walker for the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Which one do you go for?
I would go for Lachlan Galvin every single day of the week. I reckon most Roosters fans would do that. It's just whether or not they've already agreed with Daly Cherry Evans and they've already got numbers locked in. And would the Roosters be prepared to wrong a captain of Queensland, a legend of the game like that? That'd be a big, big call.
It's just business. It's not personal. It would just be business, and it'd just be sorry, but we had to rescind. And hey, if DCE is talking like he's talking and no deal's been done yet, then no deal's been done yet. And if the Roosters are saying no deal's been done yet, then no deal has been done yet. Yeah. I highly doubt that a contract has been signed. One certainly hasn't been registered because we know we would know about that. Maybe one has been agreed, but it's not been signed. And it's certainly not been lodged.
Yeah. It would be an amazing get for them. The mail is, though, the Bulldogs are now probably in a position where maybe they're the 75% favourites to get him, which is incredible, though, considering it seemed like it was a done deal at the Eels. Everyone thought he was going to Parramatta to partner Mitchell Moses, but it looks like the Dogs are maybe going to get him, which for this year, Jimmy, if that's what happens, it's a huge risk by them.
Before I answer that question, one more team in the mixer.
Okay, go for it.
Would be the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Obviously, it would require relocation. But imagine the excitement of partnering with the Katoa, the Hammer. That would, I imagine Lachlan Galvin would appeal to. We know they've got money.
It would be, I'm sure it would, but when a club like the Bulldogs comes knocking, the buzz around that team and the fan base and the money's probably going to be similar. I think he'd choose the Bulldogs to stay in Sydney, partner up with Matt Burton in the halves.
I reckon Dolphins could afford to pay him more and would pay him more.
Maybe.
Not maybe.
But the Dogs can have some third parties get involved in there, and then, hey, here we go.
I wonder if we'll get Tino's pub.
Yeah, exactly. You get his own pub.
It's an interesting one. If it does appear as though the Dogs and Para are in first and second, or second and first, whichever way you want to look at it.
It's not whichever way. Dogs are first currently.
Okay.
Eels are second.
All right. Well, if that's the case and he comes in this year, it could be an absolute master stroke, or it could be Tino Asprilla. For those listeners that don't know, Newcastle United winning the Premier League and going really well with their starting 11, their squad. All roads were leading to a Premiership, going to St James's Park in Newcastle, and they signed Colombian striker Tino Asprilla, who was a gun, but just couldn't quite get that team harmony going again, and ultimately they lost the Premier League. The famous Sir Kevin Keegan quote of, "I will love it if we beat them." Love it. Hey, you've got to go show that tape to Alex Ferguson. I'll tell you now, we're still fighting for this title. Brilliant viewing, seeing a coach just crack on national television. But it could have the same effect, because the Dogs at the moment have clearly built something. On paper, does Galvin add to that? I know the Dogs have been selective about who they bring in and who they don't. I imagine if they are serious about this pursuit of Lachlan Galvin, paying the transfer fee, which will be required, bring him into an already highly competitive, well-drilled roster. The harmony of the team is a 10 out of 10. Like, the connection of that group is a 10 out of 10. Nobody can question that. That is what is setting the Bulldogs apart at the moment, in my belief. And I think most observers of football would believe that they look like a connected unit. Galvin comes in, likely to play 7. I think this talk of him being a lock forward, I think that's too premature. I think he could maybe become a 13, which would be strange, saying your number 7 becomes a 13. I just don't think he's got the defensive movement patterns and the defensive capabilities to play 13 yet.
And he's really tall, but he's still a bit more slender, isn't he?
But we've seen him in yesteryear. Well, when I say yesterday, basically last year.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. Run the team of the Tigers.
Yeah.
Like, run that team and be that dominant half, which you could see working with a Matt Burton. But again, it may not. But it's the type of decision that the Dogs hierarchy would have. They're not leaving things to chance. They're going to go over this. They're going to have their chats with Lockie about how he feels about going into camp the night before a game.
Yeah.
About how he feels about defending the way the Bulldogs, like the emphasis on defence. Lachlan Galvin is an amazing attacking footballer. The Dogs, I don't know if they've got a roster spot open, but that is likely quickly fixed up. I think Carl Olapau was maybe let go, so there maybe is a spot there. But that is something that that's a secondary problem. I think they've got the cap space to get him in for this year. Obviously, Leo Thompson coming to the club next year as well. I think there would be money there, or they would find a way to move somebody on to generate the salary cap space to bring him in. The Eels, however, you look at it and you go, are we going to see this domino effect of the player movement of Galvin to Para? If he goes there this year, well, where does he actually play?
Well, would the Parramatta Eels try and get Dylan Brown to then go to Newcastle as well?
Yeah.
But then Newcastle will need to try and get rid of Jackson Hastings, which is probably easier said than done.
Unless Hastings was just... Could you just pay him out? No, you can't. You
No,
can't
because it's on the cap. It's on the cap.
Of course.
Yeah, they need a team to take him on. Mate, he's on 800, so there's 6 months left, so it's about 400 a club would need to take on for Hastings. Could go to England.
I don't know.
But he's just had a baby, hasn't he? So he might not want to be moving over there just yet.
Yeah, he's probably not going to go. with that in mind, and also if he's still owed 400, that's about £200,000 for half a year. Don't know if he's
struggle to find that at this stage of the season in England as well.
Yeah, they'd have to back pay him.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that door's closed. Or maybe we're surprised and Lachlan Galvin just goes at the end of the year. I think if he goes before June 30, it'll be at the Dogs. If he waits till the end of the year, I think Parramatta are probably a little bit closer on that. But that, you know what? It's funny about the Parramatta move, or the potential for a Parramatta move, and his manager, Isaac Moses, that moved the protege number 6 in Blaise Talangi out of the Parramatta system for whatever reason. Obviously, there was a law of Penrith there. But then to move another client into that spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do. I do know what you mean, but I don't know if that matters that much. It's just him trying to. What an opportunity that was for Talangi to become the successor of Jerome Luai in Penrith, and it's still what an opportunity for. Because at that time as well, when Blaise Talangi left, Dylan Brown was the 5'8", and he was signed for 8 years at Parramatta. And yes, there were options there, but the path wasn't as clear for Blaise Talangi to play in the halves. He had the opportunity to go partner Nathan Cleary.
Yeah. Maybe I've overanalyzed.
And Galvin, but it sounds like the Dogs are the front runners. And I don't know, it feels like a crazy thing to do if you're the Dogs. I know you don't necessarily. I know that they're not 100% sure about Toby Sexton, hence why he probably hasn't been re-signed yet. And then they're worried about some of his defensive deficiencies and whatnot. But it's a big call, and you're sitting top, 1 defeat all year. Do you upset the apple cart?
Well, that's the balance of the decision of how much better he's going to. Like, you go and you look at, you weigh up the pros and cons. You go, well, is he going to make us better? Yes. In this, and this. Could he be the other way, where he's not as. Because the big thing about the Bulldogs is their connection to the group and the connection to each other, and who they play for. Like, they walk from a core stadium on Good Friday. So they walk from the Pullman Hotel through to a core stadium, like through their fans. They do it at Belmont, and they want to do it. They feel connected. So, but it's like the same would have been asked about Leo Thompson. And the same would have been asked about any player that they look to bring in.
I know, but Leo Thompson, front rower, doesn't upset the apple cart as much. But he's coming next year as well. Yeah. Extra middle for the Dogs. But for this year, with 1 defeat all year season, with now the Dogs are the shortest premiership price favourite probably since you played for them. This is probably the best position they've been in to win a comp since you played for them. It was a long time ago, nearly 10 years ago, when you guys were in that grand final. Or over 10 years ago. It's a huge call.
It is a huge call, but again, look who's making the decision.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to quote David Brent, it is a question of trust. Do you trust me, Malcolm?
I do.
It is a question of trust. You've got to trust Phil Gould.
Yeah.
In his decision-making capabilities.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and if he believes this increases the chances of the Bulldogs for this year and next year and for the future, or other years moving forward into the future, then you go, yeah. And if he doesn't, he'll just pull out. He'll just say no. He has publicly gone on record and said that the team that has Lachlan Galvin in future seasons will be winning premierships. He's that good. And people say a lot of things, but...
Well, he's one of the young guns of the game, Lachlan Galvin.
Yeah.
No question that. The question I had for you as well, though, is do you reckon if he does come, could he be the 14 and take that Bailey Hayward role? Or is that,
Bailey Hayward's too good at that.
Yeah. And so when you think Sexton drops that team, does Burton become the halfback maybe?
No.
So Lachlan Galvin's going to be the halfback.
You don't do all that moving.
Because they're both left-footed, aren't they? Burton's a left-footer as well.
Yeah, he is. He is. I think if it happens, unfortunately for Toby Sexton, Galvin will become the 7.
Yeah.
And I think Bailey Hayward might end up with a spot at lock for a little
You got
while.
like 7 locks at the Dogs. There's no shortage of locks.
Oh, no, because Kate Mann will come back, of course. I forgot he's not allowed to play.
And then you got Josh Curran around as well.
Yeah, but he's not allowed to play because Salmon's injured, but then Kate Mann's not playing this week because he's 18th man 6 days after the game on Thursday.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the stupidest rule.
Strange one. I guess now, like I say, if it's before June 30, I think he goes to Dogs. If it goes to next year, I think he'll be
You're
a
a bit coy, but I reckon you really like this move. I think it's amazing if Galvin comes in.
Mate, why would you not want to be excited about one of the best young talents coming to your
Maybe I'm a bit
team?
paranoid and I just worry that, a team going well, it's fine.
Yeah,
Let's finish the year and see how we're going.
I get those questions, 100%. Yeah. I'm stewing over them myself. But it's not been done yet. And I guess these next few days are going to be super exciting about where Lachlan Galvin ends up. This saga that's dominated the headlines for so much of the season, as well as the Tigers have been going. They just keep giving us these stories away from the field that just will not go away. And, as soon as Galvin is given his release, whenever and wherever it may be, attention is going to turn to Jerome Luai and that clause that's in it. It already sort of is. And that within itself is maybe going to affect the ability for them to recruit.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and I think they're heavily linked with Kai Pearce-Paul, which I think would be a great addition to their team. Brings lots of offload. It sort of goes to that style of football I think the Tigers are going to play, the Benji Marshall style of very attacking-based football. People ask about, well, where do things go to? And I know Latu Faina has been sort of touted as maybe they don't need to recruit. But maybe I've been watching Jaden Sullivan of recent weeks. His defence has been out of this league. Some of those one-on-one tackles against Pia Cora the other week against the Broncos were insane. Like, he's not known for his defence.
No.
But again, he's connected to that South Sydney group. He's obviously got a coach in Wayne Bennett that has brought out the best in him, feels like he belongs to that team, and he's defending like he cares.
Yeah.
And his attack is going pretty well as well. So I wonder if the Tigers are looking, going, can we get that Jaden Sullivan back?
Yeah, and he will be back there next year.
Well,
because it's a funny way. If you don't, it's basically he signed a deal with South Sydney. However, he goes back to the Tigers next year.
I know Souths would be very keen to have him to stay.
Yeah.
But do the Tigers say, can we? But I don't know if he can replicate that form for the Tigers, because the messenger is Marshall. The messenger's not Bennett.
No. I've had a look at their draw for Tigers as well for the run home, because they're 5-6. 5 wins, 6 losses so far. Their run home's tough. The NRL did them a favour and gave them some easy games to start the year. They play the Titans.
All those easy games in the NRL that you played.
Yeah, well, they don't exist at the moment, do they? But they gave them easier games, easier than the run home at least. They got 2 games against the Titans for the rest of the year. They'll be the favourites in those games. I don't think they'll be the favourites in another game all year. But looking at their draw,
see, I think Terrell May, Jerome Luai are going to take this Origin snub personally. I think we're going to see them go okay. I've been thinking about Terrell May as well. Obviously, spoke with Cheese and the style of player that he is, and I had, I guess, forgotten the fact that he used to come off the bench for the Roosters and impact games, and I think I forgot it. He wouldn't have. He would know he should be there.
yeah.
He would know. He would, and as look, I'm delighted for Max King. I think Laurie Daly's picked a great Origin squad, but I think if you're Terrell May, you're looking and going, I should be there. What else do I have to do? And he seems like the type of character that is just going to I'll show you what you're missing.
Yeah, I hope they go well this year.
And I think Jerome Luai as well is going to up his game is the wrong phrase, but just dial it in.
coming to his own in that 7 role a bit more, maybe.
That's the great way of putting it, Charlie.
Yeah.
We've seen him. I remember watching him last year at Penrith really dictate the terms and control games, which was great to watch. That was the knock on him, and I think Tigers fans looked at that and got super excited. Jerome has said like his own form has been down, but I think he's gonna. I think the best thing to happen to the Tigers is those two not get picked for Origin on a purely selfish Tigers perspective.
Another positive that could happen with Galvin going is it could give him a boost. Like if they actually don't like him and he's this guy that they have around, they don't like what he's done. It could give him a little boost, like, oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Let's grow.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We're all in this together now. Let's go. See you later.
Like, this group is now on board.
Yeah. I do think, though, they're not out of the woods for the spoon just yet, though. They're a much better team than the Tigers. They're a much better team than the Titans and the Eels and the Knights, in my opinion, the Tigers. But their draw, and just if the pressure comes and they keep losing, they're only, I think, 2 wins ahead of the bottom spot on the ladder at the moment.
Oh, Charlie, don't say that.
Like, it's not, you're not out of the woods, Tigers fans, just yet. You're not out of the woods.
You are. You can rest up. You're not getting any more kitchenware.
Bears, though, Jimmy. Big news. Your man, Sammy Burgess. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when it sort of started to come out, but it looks like he's going to be the head coach for the Perth Bears, which is amazing.
It is. It is. Partnering Mal Meninga. Not quite sure how the dynamics of that relationship will work. Who's in charge. Maybe I could see Mal in a sort of head of football style role where there's not too much interference with the sort of day-to-day operations. Him being more around recruitment, giving bits of advice to Sammy.
That godfather role.
Yeah.
He can find a good, Mal Meninga can find like a good high-paying, cushy job.
Well, he deserves it.
Of course, like power to him. But he's just good. He's good at finding those figurehead jobs. Well, for Titans.
I think with Mal, he will contribute to that organisation.
Oh, big time.
And in his ability to recruit. Also, he's a genuine star of the game.
Yeah.
Well, he was.
And take some of that media pressure off Sam Burgess as well.
I'm delighted for Sam. I genuinely hope he gets it. I really do. Like, I'd be so pleased for him. Maybe he'll come on the show and tell us all about it.
Hopefully.
If he does get the job. But I reckon he's too scared. Too scared of the hard-hitting questions. In fact, he messaged me that. I said, mate, are you keen to come on and chat? He's like, can't face the grilling from you.
Yeah. It's an awesome journey for him, though, to go from, leaving the Bunnies, went over to England, Warrington. They're in the Challenge Cup final.
No, before that, he went to the Bush.
That's right. He's coaching the Coffs Harbour team, wasn't he? The Axeman, yeah.
Yeah. So
thanks to Russell Crowe. What a journey that is.
Yeah. I think people forget that and just go, oh, he had that job or role at South, and then that blew up and he's gone off to England. He went to the Axeman.
I forgot about that.
That is what that shows is somebody that's willing to start at the bottom of a ladder that you'll want to climb. Like, that is an incredible dedication to coaching, to go to that, with all due respect, that level of Sam. But he didn't need to do that. He could have got an assistant coach's job. He could have gone straight to England, but he didn't. He started to cut his teeth at that level of the game. He shows he's in. He shows he's got ambitions to be a career coach, not just I'll give it a shot. He's got ambitions to be a career coach, because if he just wanted to give it a shot, he would have known he could have got fast tracked.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, he could be doing whatever he wants pretty much in the game. He could be doing media, he could be doing, there'll be so many avenues for Sam. When we did the first podcast of the buy round, it was Sam Burgess. You interviewed Sam Burgess, the first ever one. He was coaching the Axemen at the time.
Yeah, he was.
So that's like the same, that's like 2.5 years, or how long have we been doing the podcast? 3, and he's gone from the Axemen.
How long have we been doing this for?
2022.
So 3 years.
3 years, yeah. Wow. In 3 years, he's gone from coaching regional rugby league to coaching the Perth Bears.
But it's to be confirmed, but
it sounds like he's very much got the job. So the story broke, Brent Reed broke the story earlier in the week. The NRL came out and tried to poo-poo the story. But that's more because they hadn't told Brad Arthur that he'd missed out yet.
Yeah. Well, they need to announce it soon. I imagine it will come after the Challenge Cup final, which from memory is either 2 weeks or 3 weeks away.
Do you reckon Sam will just finish the year out and then come over and start getting his feet under the desk and planning the team? Because obviously the team doesn't come in until 2027, but he'll have a lot of work to do.
That's where Mal comes in. Yeah, that's where Mal comes in. That's why they bring Meninga in.
Do you think he stays at Warrington?
Well, he's contracted there.
But I imagine the NRL could pay a fee to let him out. Or
I think it's about... I think Sam would have an adult conversation, and I think if Warrington wanted him to stay, they would keep him. And if he, which I imagine he wants to, like it's a lot of time to just not be coaching. Again, this is more experience for Sam, coaching Warrington next year. Like it's more experience, more situations that he will come across.
If Mal can do the heavy lifting on recruiting, then and. Because
Sam will play, yeah.
Being in England, you're a long way away, and then even just the time zone's gonna.
No, you're so far away.
No, but it is. It's gonna time zone like meeting. What if a player's like, I got midday free on Wednesday. Let's catch up then. Well, actually, that's gonna be 3 a.m.
And look, your workload as a head coach is astronomical, but I guess, you know what? Maybe with
he needs to be doing face-to-face meetings.
The very fact that it is a new team. And that just how important the recruitment is, that maybe that in-person meeting around, okay, if you're my coach, where do you see me? Like, that's going to be a big question. Like, where do you see me playing? Like, what plans have you got for the team? Especially for the marquee players.
Yeah.
So, you know what, though? You know all he needs to do? Just go and listen to our podcast that we did.
That's true.
Build a bear.
It's not that hard.
All he needs to do is just copy what the three of us did.
Yep. I thought we did a great team.
Yeah.
Very good, lot of good feedback on that as well. People love the Build-A-Bear.
Yeah.
We did the 1 to 17. If you haven't listened to it or watched it, go and download it now. Wherever you get your podcast, just search the buy round or just scroll down now if you're listening. Just 2 spots.
I think, you know what, I'm a bit stuck there on what the best course of action would be. Because I think but then, like, it's that, what balance, how much weight do you put on pure coaching experience with Warrington versus actually being on boots on the ground?
I reckon, though, with the new team as well, it's not just the recruitment. There's also the crap side of coaching as well, where you have to go and do the meetings. To they got to build a bit of buzz in the community and go talk to sponsors and do all that recruitment and drive revenue. And like coaches, I think for this new franchise are going to be that is Mal.
That's Mal.
So that's Mal's role.
Yeah, I think Mal takes up employment.
Yeah.
In 2026.
Or now. If Mal's going to take a job now,
really,
they should be putting together all their sponsors now and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, the sponsors don't need to. It helps. It's not an absolute, but that's where
they want to get their revenue sorted. They want to get their corporate partners sorted. They want to get all that stuff. They want to get.
That's your CEO's job.
Yeah, but like even if a CEO can do that job, it will help having a guy like Sam Burgess in the meeting. It will help having a guy like Mal Meninga in the meeting to sell the story of what the club will look like.
Yeah.
Because the CEO can say one thing, but hearing it from the coach and the head of football is going to be a lot more powerful.
I think Mal Meninga basically starts employment in 2 weeks, and then with Sam, it's the glass coffin.
Remains to be seen. How's this? They win the Challenge Cup, Warrington, and he departs straight after.
No, he's going to definitely see the season out. Okay. He wouldn't just lift the Challenge Cup and then bail.
Overall, though, you're very, very happy with it.
Absolutely. I think when you look at everything that the Perth Bears are going to need, that combination covers a lot of the bases. Is it absolutely perfect? No. If you were to be given like the open checkbook, everybody's off contract, you go for a Bennett or you go for a Bellamy, but not far down on the list is Sam Burgess and Mal Meninga. And obviously we don't live in that perfect world. I think with what's available, it's a great signing.
Can you, before we move on, just answer this one question? I haven't given you any heads up for this, so you might not have a story for us, but do you have anything that sort of shows what Sam Burgess is like as a leader? Because from the outside looking in with Sam Burgess, one of the most charismatic and interesting people to have ever played the game. I just imagine that as a leader, he would have been so dynamic.
Absolutely he was. I can remember we were playing a test match against the Kiwis at Wiggins ground, and I damaged my medial ligament, and I was limping around, and he just looked at me and said, "Jammer, I need you." And I just got on with the job.
With the done medial.
Because I got on because of him.
Yeah.
And there's a few other things that stick in my mind. I can remember doing a training session in South Africa for the World Cup before 2013. And he was just fuming at a bad training session. He was just like, "I hate shit practice." It's like, some people are like, "Oh." And you know what? It's going to be... That doesn't mean that way's right. You look at the methods of Maguire versus maybe the methods of a Bennett. Like, Bennett's getting results at Souths, but it's definitely not an intense working environment.
No.
Maguire's not getting results at Brisbane, and we know Maguire is an intense working environment. So, and Sam's been coached by both and got results with both. So it's going to be interesting I don't know what his actual... See, there can be a difference between a playing leadership style and a coaching leadership style. And likely, in the 3 years since Sam began coaching, he's still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And he's still learning. And that's where someone like Mal will be really helpful. Yeah. And he's probably going to be stuck in that like building a new club from laying the foundations is probably a little bit different to, if he was to come back and say, take over from South after Wayne.
I love it just because of the media buzz it's going to bring as well.
It's going to be brilliant.
And like Sam will be, he's like the perfect salesman for the Bears in that market, and like presenting rugby league and just like being so dynamic on interviews. All the local media he'll do. He'll be giving them amazing quotes. He'll be driving interest in the game. And like, I don't know how any player could say no to him if he came to them and like sold the vision.
He'll be very good in that department of recruitment.
Definitely.
One of the big issues is they're going to have are the kit companies. So I know when he was at South, they had to get extenders on the baseball caps.
Why is that?
Because he's just got a massive head. So, like, it is imperative. Like, so I think Souths are with Classic. So hopefully the Perth Bears use Classic Sports because they do extenders on the headwear because because of the size of his head. He needs special care and attention.
If they're not using Classic as well, what are they doing with themselves? Really, I'd be shocked if the Perth Bears are that. That small-minded that they don't use Classic.
Exactly.
Come on. We're less than a week away from Origin, but geez, it's quiet, isn't it? I mean, we've just done the whole podcast basically on the NRL club news. It's so quiet, and it's because none of them are really taking any digs at each other.
Well, one of the leading stories is Payne Haas misses training. It's like, yeah, kind of new because he's got that quad knock. There's not much happening yet, but I guess gone are the days of the team bonding on the Mondays.
I think they have them still, but they're different. They're a lot more tame. They're all behind closed doors.
Yeah,
they don't last like 3 or 4 days, and then you start sobering up a training for a couple of days, and then you get
and obviously the modern athlete is very different.
Yeah,
they would be looking at this. This is the game of my life, and probably don't want to be going into it underdone. But yeah, news is a bit quiet, isn't it? You know what? I was speaking to someone. I can't remember who it was, but they were surprised that Daly came out so early and said declared Payne Haas being fit.
Yeah, normally they let that game go on all week down to the Origin mind games.
Like, why is he elected? Unless that is the mind game that he's not playing.
Well, because Daly was the same one that. When he was coach, I think Mick Ennis was actually going to be playing, but they pretended that
Robbie Farah was playing.
Yeah, the whole week. So he's a man who doesn't mind a mind game.
Yeah. I'm surprised he's been as open as the fact that Payne Haas is going to play.
Yeah.
But again, maybe he's not, and he's just playing. But I mean, if you're Queensland, would you rather do your work on Payne and then he pulls out, or? and then Stefano comes in. I don't know. Or would you rather the other way around? I don't know.
Yeah.
It is quiet, though. There isn't much.
Yeah. I wonder if they need more drama, though, because you kind of need to get as much attention for Origin as well, because Origin's not about it's about the everyday fan who watches Clubland, but Origin for the game is more about attracting that, surface level fan who tunes in for the big moments because they want to try and hit as many people as possible. We want 4 million Australians to watch State of Origin.
Yeah.
So they need a bit more buzz. If I was the NRL, I would be trying to get Spencer Leniu to spark something. I know he's got a media ban, but he's the guy who can drive that hatred and passion and intensity.
Well, I always talk about it, the power of hate. Imagine if Leniu just came out and baked Jonathan Thurston.
Yeah.
Just said, I'm going up there and I'm going to be teeing off on everyone, wishing it was him. They'd just be the buzz, the interest in that. But he's obviously not. Well, I can only assume he's not going to do that.
No, he's on a media ban. He's on a media ban. Latrell's on a media ban.
Yeah. And
Ben Dobbin ruining Latrell Mitchell.
They're probably the two biggest sellable voices of New South Wales.
Because DCE is going to play a straight bat as captain. Isaiah Yeo is going to play a straight bat as captain.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think on the Queensland who would be the kind of guy that could fire it up. Tino's so nice. Tino's the guy. The way he plays, he'd be the perfect guy to get out there and say stuff. But he's one of the nicest guys in rugby league.
He's very respected. Yeah, this is where people like Paul Gallen were worth their weight in gold.
Yeah,
Nate Mile,
the NRL paid Paul Gallen, I think $50,000 1 year to promote. Maybe do we get back to those days? Does the NRL pull $50,000 out of nowhere, say to Spencer Leniu and your media ban, and say this,
or just I'd pay off Latrell. Imagine he'd be the one.
They could even control it themselves. Latrell doesn't have to speak to all the media. They could get the New South Wales one-on-one, do a one-on-one with him and just fire it up.
Do it through the NRL channels.
Yeah. Let's preview the round though, Jimmy, because there is still plenty of footy to talk about.
Yes, there is. Bulldogs against the Dolphins Thursday.
A Core Stadium on a wet Thursday night.
Yes.
With no Max King, no Stephen Crichton. Who else is missing? No Hammer for the Dolphins. No Tommy Gilbert for the Dolphins.
Gutted for Tommy Gilbert. Geez, it's a cruel game at times. He's out for the whole series with that pec injury. That's tough luck.
He can find an injury. I feel bad for him. Yeah. He's just got injured at awful times.
Mate, he seems like such a nice guy. Now I spoke to Christian Wolf about him. He speaks so highly of him. But then when you hear him speak, it almost like his voice doesn't match his body and his persona and his work ethic.
Yeah.
It's devastating news for him. But on this game, Josh Curran back, Sam Hughes is back, and Bailey Hayward at lock. So there's a fair bit to like there. And Bulldogs fans, mate, they'll be turning out in numbers, rain, hail or shine. Don't worry about that. There's a few Bulldogs fans who I've spoke to, though, that, oh, no, I'm not going on Thursday. I was like, okay, well, fair weather. So get out there, Bulldogs fans.
Over under, I reckon, for attendance is like $15,000 or 15,000.
I've played on a Thursday night there for the Dogs against the Cowboys one year, and they put up 8, and I don't know if there was 800, not 8,000.
Did you play at a Core ever during COVID?
No.
It was when they had the restrictions and stuff. It was like, there was a game last year that reminded me of it. I can't remember who played. It might have been South, but it was like literally it said 10,000. There would have been 2,000 people there, and you couldn't hear anyone cheer anything.
Yeah, the Thursday, this would be perfect for Belmore, but obviously for reasons that are purely financial, the clubs don't do it.
I'm guessing you're tipping the Doggies with no Hammer for the Dolphins and no Gilbert, and still Max Plass still out at the moment. So
yeah, but the Dolphins with Katoa and Farnworth, that they can attack.
Is this your new thing? Are you going to tip against the Dogs every week?
No,
Is this your new thing that you're just going to tip against the Dogs?
No, I was worried for them against the Roosters. I really was.
Yeah.
I think the Dolphins pose plenty of attacking threat. Like, say, Farnworth as well. Like, going up against, don't know who he'll be against, but he's obviously not going up against Crichton.
That's a good point. You know what could be a good bet? Dolphins first half into Dogs full time.
That's a great shout, Charlie.
That's a good way of doing it. Get on that on Ladbrokes, everybody. Then Friday, Eels against the Seagulls. got a feel for Parramatta. They get Manly during Origins the first year where they're Tom Travojevic is there.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You'd be looking at that going, well, they'll be missing Tommy. They'll be missing DCE.
Yeah. They'll be missing Jake. They are missing Jake from DCE anyway, though.
Yeah. Olakawatu might get in.
Yeah. They're all there.
Yeah, it's got to be Manly all the way for me in this one.
No Moses, no Lomax as well. That just ruins it for
they're just a different team. Speaking of Tommy, I think Moses is the new Tommy in terms of that title of one person holds the keys to victory.
Big time. Then Panthers against the Knights, Jimmy. Panthers 5 players out.
Have you seen the odds for this game?
Yeah, they're $1.30 the Panthers. But I guess
get on the Knights.
No, no way.
The Knights will win this game.
No way.
The Knights will win this game.
No Kalen Ponga. Bradman Best is out.
Mate, the Knights will win this game.
They're paying $3.30.
I can't believe they're paying that. They're at that price.
It's in Bathurst as well, which
I don't care where it is.
But the Panthers lost to the Tigers in Bathurst.
Mate, I'm telling you now, this isn't the same Panthers team that it used to be. That they've had a couple of good performances of late, and I know the Knights have had some shockers, but the Knights have to win this. They have to win this.
The reshuffling, they've got Dane Laurie at fullback. He's a good player. So I don't think that's...
Charlie, you don't need to go through their 17.
Tom Jenkins on the wing for Brian To'o. Brad Schneider and Blaze Talangi are the halves. And then they've obviously got a lot of other players out as well. They've got Lindsay Smith playing lock. They pushed Liam Henry to the back row. We'll see how that goes.
Mate, I'm telling you now, the Knights are going to win this.
See, I don't know. I'll tell me which spine you think's better. Dane Laurie, Blaze Talangi, Brad Schneider, Mitch Kenny. Or Fletcher Sharp, Tyson Gamble, Jack Cogger, Phoenix Crossland.
Well, when you put it like that, Penrith's spine is slightly better.
Then let's have a look at the front row. Matt Eisenhuth, Moses Leota against Tyson Frizzell, Leo Thompson.
Yeah, that's
probably the Knights, 50-50.
Yeah. Look, we don't need to go. We don't need to.
It's not a game that deserves that.
It's not a game that Knights should be playing $3. I think Ladbrokes are way off. All the bookmakers are way off.
Okay, well maybe you'll have it in your same game multi later on.
Don't you worry.
Roosters against the Sharks. You mean Chooks, despite their up and down season, 5 players out in Origin. They got Lindsay Collins out, Connor Watson out, Angus Crichton out, Spencer Lenu out, and Robert Toyer for Queensland.
Considering that they've had a indifferent start to the year, I think they're starting to show signs though, the Roosters, but they'll struggle to compete against a Sharks team that doesn't have any
Origin players
representation. Obviously, Teddy in the mix, he'll be determined to have a good game as always. He will be an 8 or a 9 out of 10. I just think when you look at the benches, the Sharks will power over them.
Funny one for Dom Young as we sort of all thought he played his last game for the Chookies, but there he is. Obviously, Robert Toyer's playing Origin, so Nwangani Tuwase moves to the centres, and there's Dom Young on the wing. Your Englishman.
Time for redemption.
Final game, match of the round, the New Zealand Warriors against the Canberra Raiders. No Mitch Barnett and James Fisher-Harris. His suspension could really cost the Warriors in this one. On the Raiders side, they've obviously lost Hudson Young as well.
This is a tough one to call. Obviously, a replay of Las Vegas where the Raiders run riot and the Warriors looked like they were heading for the wooden spoon. I know the Warriors will be out for, probably not really vengeance. I think the Raiders get the win.
I think the Warriors win that one.
Even without the 2 front rowers.
I know, big loss, but they've got depth. They have got depth, the Warriors.
Yeah. No, I think the Raiders.
All right. It's been an absolute pleasure, James.
Always is, Charlie. Always is. You should not sound so surprised, my friend.
Look after yourself.
I will.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.